All right, what's good, y'all? This is Fred Johnson the fourth, Mr. I'm gonna graduate, your favorite college success coach, and I got another podcast interview for y'all. I'm excited by this awesome educator, Miss Ashley Williams, who is the school counselor at Glen Oaks Magnet High School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. When I tell y'all this woman is amazing, I've had a chance to get to work with her just a little bit, and her students, she thinks really deeply about how she builds programming and how she works with her students. So I'm excited to be able to interview her today. Ms. Williams, how are you doing? How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm happy Juneteenth to everyone. Just here working when I'm not supposed to be working, but it's all good, you know. Gotta do
Look,
what we gotta do so we can stay ahead of the game.
right. Look, that's what the best do. That's what
Yeah.
the best do. So again, if this is your first time watching this podcast, welcome to the College Access and Persistence podcast, where I bring on leaders from the secondary world, leaders from the higher ed world, and we just talk that real. We just talk about what they're doing, the amazing work that they're doing, but I also want to learn best practices, want to learn how to better collaborate and how to ultimately improve student outcomes. So again, I'm really excited to interview Ms. Williams. Now, before we get into the questions, Ms.
Okay.
Williams, are you from the Baton Rouge area, from Louisiana? Kind of talk us through where you're from.
So actually I was born in Tampa, Florida.
Mhm.
My dad was playing football there and him and my mom, they were together and she passed away like 3 months after she had gave birth to me. So he moved me down here with his mom. So I've been in Zachary since 1983. So I mean, born there. I wasn't born in Zachary, but I'm from Zachary and I still live in the area. But most of my work is done in the Baton Rouge area.
Gotcha. What's Zachary like? What's Zachary, Louisiana?
It has really grown over the years. If you were there, I would say 80s, 90s, 2000s, it was a nice place to be. Now it's like super grown. It has its own school system now, thriving, really, really thriving. It's one of the top systems in the Louisiana area. I mean, well, in Louisiana, it's one of the top school systems. So, yeah, but I'm ready to move away from Zachary.
I got
I,
I got
I'm just, yeah.
it is what it is. It is what it is. I
Not,
got
it's not my cup of tea. I know what type of kids
mm,
I like. So, that's kind of, I'll just leave it at that. I know my niche and where I need to be. So,
right,
yeah.
right. I got you. I got you. Now I know, sometimes people's upbringing puts them in the education. Sometimes it's like this specific life experience that I don't want to say pushes you into education, but we all find our way in education some type of way. Talk to us about your journey. How did you get
Ooh.
into education?
Well, first off, I'm in a family full of educators. My uncle, my oldest uncle, he was a principal, 3 times retired.
Mm,
Um, he's still heavy in the school system. My aunt was a sped teacher of 30 something years. She's now retired. I have many of my cousins who are coaching and still in the education. I have one who's an eye care specialist. I have one who's a high school coach in another school system. I mean, it's just an abundance of educators. I have another one who's an elementary school counselor, just people I know. So I grew up around education. That was one of the prevalent things in my family. Like you're going to school, you're going to, and that'll be some more conversation for later.
mm,
But you're going to college, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So but that was very, very big. I didn't start off as a when I left high school, I felt I was going to be a doctor. That was my thing. Like
mm.
I'm graduating, I graduated valedictorian. I'm going to school for biology, going to be a doctor. That was my thing. Got to college. That's not my thing.
Mm.
So I changed my major maybe 3 times. I went to mass comm, um, maybe because I liked sports and I was in the sports arena. So I was like, okay, this may be my niche. That wasn't my niche. I changed it to what was that? I don't remember. But my last change was psychology. So I ended up graduating in psychology. I left Grambling and I went to Southern in 2009. I started in the fall and I finished in mental health counseling. But I also, at Grambling, I also had a minor in education. So I did do some education there, but I was so ready to get home. I was like, I'm just going to finish in psychology and whatever. So did my mental health counseling. I finished in mental health and school counseling. So I ended up getting a job with my internship, which was AMI Kids Baton Rouge. I'm not sure if you're familiar with AMI, which is Associate Marine Institute. They're kind of, when I started, they dealt more with adjudicated kids from DJS, OJJ, those
Mhm.
type kids. And I was one of the counselors there. So, that's where I started. So, but it was an educational piece to it. So they had to get counseling throughout the week. They would come to their sessions at least twice a week. Everybody had a caseload. It was like four of us, and everybody had a caseload. But they also, most of those kids had probation officers. Um, might have been in group homes there. So that's kind of where my mix started to come in. I left there because they had a reduction of force, and that was like 2010. I came in the school system as an elementary school teacher. I went back to Southern and I did my program, the teacher program, and I finished that. So after that, I started teaching elementary school, third grade.
Mm.
I actually liked third grade. It was where you taught all the subjects. So I
Right.
was teaching all the subjects then. It was I'll say very stressful. I wasn't going home till like 7, 8 o'clock at night until I kind of just found like, look, you cannot be leaving here 7, 8 o'clock every day. Because at that time I did have a child. I had a girl at that time. She's now 15, so that'll tell you how long that's been. But I
Mhm.
mean, I was leaving there at 8 o'clock. Sometimes the janitors, they would peep in my room and say, "Hey, we about to leave." I was like, "Well, don't leave me. I'm gonna walk out with y'all." Because they knew I was one of the ones that would just stay late. And I just came to a point where, like, look, you gotta let that, whatever's not done at that point, you gotta leave it there and pick it up the next time. So I left there, and they did the same. That I was at White Hills Elementary. Came from White Hills because sometimes when you're the last to hire, you're the first to go. So
Mhm.
I had to change and I went to Scotlandville Elementary. Loved it there. I was fifth grade, math and science there.
Mhm.
So same thing went on through the year. Had to change another school because they do the again last to hire, first to, and
Mhm.
I wasn't fired. I was just had to move around a
Right.
lot. So then went to Sharon Hills. And at that time, I was just kind of like stressed because at this point I was pregnant with my second child, which is my last child. I only have two.
Mhm.
And it was very, very stressful. So once I had him, I kind of took a leave of absence from the school system. And I did go back to AMI. But at that time, so again, I went back to AMI. June came, again, reduction in force. So I came back to the school system. And then when I came back to the school system, I went to Eden Park.
Mhm.
That's where they were starting the for overage kids. So it was like a blended learning type situation, or supposedly a blended learning type situation. Stayed there for about 3 to 4 years, teaching math basically to fourth, fifth graders, trying to get them on track. I left from teaching down there, and they moved me downstairs to the discipline center. I
Mm.
actually loved it. I'm kind of a disciplinarian, so
Mhm.
that's kind of my niche. I like, when I told you earlier, like my niche of kids, I know what I like.
Mhm.
So I ran that. Of course, when school starts from the beginning, you don't really have a lot of kids because they haven't started suspending kids and things like that. So I might have started off. I think I started the first month with no kids. So it was basically just helping around, being a team
Mhm.
player. Maybe by December, I had about 4 or 5 kids. But come January, I had about 13 kids
Mhm.
that had been suspended and expelled. So those were my kids. And I loved it there, and the kids loved me because we had a system. I know you came here for this reason, but that doesn't have to be your narrative, So I never had any issues. Never, just great kids when they, left me. It was like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. They, people were wondering like, how did you get them to just be like, people look at them as these are your worst kids. Well, sometimes the worst kids are not as worse as you think they are if you don't give them a chance. Conversation goes a long way. So Mondays, when they come in off the weekend, we didn't really do a lot of work. It was more so talking and about the weekend and things that may have happened, things that they may have seen, or things of that nature, because you have to, if they're in here with me, it's a reason why they're in here. Work doesn't matter to them at this point. So how can I get it to where you don't come see me again? And when you see me, you're at your own school and not this school. How, what works, and the conversations you wouldn't believe, or you may believe, some of the things that the kids were saying. And, it's just, everybody is not fit to be a teacher. I'll say that. So, that goes back to teachers teaching the whole child. Like, are you really getting to know your children, or are you just there to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Because sometimes you can't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G if you don't get to that part. Because this child may have come to you this morning, they may have not eaten.
Right.
Probably may have not slept. You don't know what went on last night, so you get that out, because they're growing up different from what we grew up years ago. It's totally different. You wouldn't think, and I'm not saying back then we didn't go through those things, or our friends didn't go through those things, but we as children didn't know that. And our parents made sure, like, that's not your business. Your job is to take you to the school, do what I need you to do. What's going on in my life has nothing to do with you. And back then we had that village. So that, and that's probably going to come up later on. But then I left there and I came to Glen Oaks in 2016. I've been at Glen Oaks since then. I started here as a geometry teacher. Then I went to advanced career readiness. And when I was in advanced career readiness, really liked it because I was bringing a lot of people in. Like every week, it was 2 to 3 speakers. That was your assignments. You had to listen to these people. You had to give me a summary of what these people were saying, and then I would quiz you at the end of the week on things that, so I was incorporating the writing, your listening skills, your comprehension, your spelling, like all of that was incorporated just by what we would do on a Monday, because I would give different assignments according to the speaker that we had. And I got my speakers according to the interests of my kids. So from the beginning, it was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And that's when I reached out to people who were in those fields, or in in that realm of work, to come in and speak, because you never know who they may reach. One person may say that they want to do this, and they really don't know what it is, and somebody comes in and spark their interest. So, that's kind of what I would do as advanced career readiness. That was kind of my curriculum. I kind of made my own curriculum. And it worked because it was an interest to the kids. Like, dang, they look like me. They're from the areas that I know. They say Baton Rouge, Glen Oaks, but you got Zion City and you have Third World and all. Those are the things that you have to speak and know when you're dealing with these type kids. You can't just say certain cities because they don't know. But if you put a mark on, Third World, and they know that's Scotland, that's what they are accustomed to. That's not. They don't speak like we speak, but you have to learn to get down with them sometimes, and then bring them up to par where we are. You got to go down there with them. And then I left from there, and I became TOR. They hated coming back to me at TOR because I would turn them around. They couldn't see it. It was nothing but wall. If you didn't bring any work, you wrote the whole time. And it was the same paragraph over and over and over. It was like, oh my God, it was no interaction. I would cover my windows. When lunchtime, they didn't go to the cafeteria. I had the food brought to them. So it was like no interaction. So to them, that's like, I can't do this. I can't be back here. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want you to be back here. You don't need to be in TOR, because if you back here with me, you're missing out on your instruction. And I went from there to Ingenuity. And if you know what Ingenuity is, that's kind of like credit recovery for kids who may have failed certain classes and need that. And then I've been here in the counseling for like 2.5 years. So this is where I am now. And I stay busy.
Wow.
I stay busy, yeah, because I'm the kind, like, it's me and my counterpart, but she's the one. She's not doing field trips. She'll do more paperwork. I'm more of the field trip, get the program stuff together, and that's just how we work, and we work well together on that, because I know what she's not gonna do. She knows what I'm not gonna do, and it just works well with us. I really love working with her. So shout out to Miss Murray. So
Awesome. Awesome. You have seen it, just about everything that you could see in education. You work just about with every age group. I'm curious. I was going to ask, why did you get into it? But I'm more curious about, why do you stay in education? Again, I know it's not for everybody. So why do you stay in education?
It's definitely not money. Just let me say that it's definitely not the money. It's the perks of being it. The time off. And it works with my children. Um, and I'm saying time off, but people don't really realize, even when we're off, we're not off. Like, I'm here. I got off on the 7th. I've been here every single day since I've officially got off. So and that's just to help me, like I said in the beginning, to stay abreast of things, making sure the schedules will be right when I come back, because I come return on July 18th. So I don't really have like this big old break, but staying, it was, man, I think it was the relationships that I've built. Not only the relationships that I've built with my coworkers, but just the children. Um, yeah, I never really thought about that one, but I know it's children. I know whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm supposed to be doing in life, whatever my purpose is in life, it involves children. I That's all I know. I haven't really got to what my purpose is. I At least for me, I haven't. Other people will tell me this is what you're supposed to do, Ash. This is what, but I know whatever it is, it involves children, and I like being able to give them different avenues, or expose them to different avenues if possible. We had this grant called LASFA. It was really a really, 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 really good grant, because it was just money for us to take kids on college tours. Um, Even if it was virtual, we could feed them. A lot of kids, they look for the food, regardless of what you may. They look for the food. Parent meetings, we could feed the parents. Just all of the things, from college access to job access. It was a lot of paperwork involved, but that money was set aside for that. However, we lost that grant. So now I'm kind of like, how am I going to be able to do the things? I took a couple kids. I made it took about 50 kids to Alabama State, overnight stay. We went to the museum, and then we went to the game and did the tour, and then they didn't have to pay for anything.
Wow.
So that's big when you can do those type things. I mean, we had a charter bus and everything. You know how expensive charter buses are. Like, you just, to be able to do those type kids with kids who probably would never ever do that on their own, that was very, very big. It's not, I'm not saying all of our kids are in that category to where they can't move around like that, but we have a vast majority that can't move around like that, and never will move around like that. So it was just, and to the conversations after, once we went to Alabama State, I had a flux of kids who were like, man, I liked Alabama State. And, just talking about it, but that's something they probably never would have been in their vocabulary if I never would have taken them. So I just like having those conversations. Maybe I'm that person that gives them a way to talk about things that they don't normally talk about at home. Um, my conversation with them is very real. My conversation with them is very different. And I know, for instance, I know a lot of my kids talk about the LSUs but to be honest with you, you're not that material. So let's look somewhere else. I'm not telling you to not think about LSU, but I'm telling you to give yourself other options. Don't just give yourself this one option. So those are things that we sit down and we go over, and I look at your transcript and I look at this, and you tell me, and then we look at the cost. Can you afford this? Do you see how much this is? Because you're talking about this, but you don't have this certain score to go here. You don't have this amount of money to go here. Have you applied for these scholarships? All those things, and then they looking at me like, I never knew that. Yes, you're a junior taking your ACT for the first time, and you make a 13. We already behind schedule. That you're a junior and just taking it for the first time, you're behind schedule. That's why I tell parents, as soon as your child turns 13, sign them up for the ACT. I don't care what grade they're in. They just have to be 13 to be able to take the test. Invest. Well, they don't get to take it free. Yeah, they will, but I need you to invest right now. I need you to pay that $66 for your child every year, twice a year or whatever, so that your child can get acclimated to taking this test. Stop waiting for the free all the time, because the more that you take it, the more that you invest, free is going to come. So those are conversations that I have not only with parents, but kids too. You have to, the same thing you put on your feet, you can put it in your pocket, as what you can take that. That's the same thing. We talking about the same amount of money. That one pair of shoes probably for your test. So which one is more important to you? So that's kind of why I say, in a sense, because I just want to see us thrive. I just want to see us win. I'm very, very big on my people, my culture. And by no means necessarily am I knocking any other thing, but I just want to see us win and change the narrative that everybody else has of us.
I'm with you 110%. That's the reason why I love the work I do. I love connecting with Black students and helping them to achieve success in college, and whatever they're trying to do in their life. And I can imagine there are some college counselors, some school counselors that are not investing into those difficult conversations. So I'm curious for you, is that the most challenging part of your role, having that tough conversation with families and students, or what else do you find challenging about your role, and how do you overcome it?
I don't say that's the most challenging, but I think that is a challenge, because you, as a professional, you still have to watch what you say,
right,
and how you say it, but give it to them like they need to hear it. So I try to establish relationships first. That's my biggest thing, establishing rapport, and having that relationship where you trust what I say. Because once you start trusting what I say, our conversations will be different. When I tell you something, or when I give you the best things for your child, you're gonna take it in like, you're right. You're right. I've had one parent, and she came in here and she was just talking. I had to go heart to heart with her son. I said, and I had to tell her, I say, excuse me. I said, but I'm about to talk to him just like I talked to mine. And she was like, whatever you need to do. But she probably would not have said that if she didn't trust me, if I didn't build that relationship with her. And that's I think relationship building is very difficult at times, because I do get those parents that they don't want to hear what I gotta say, or they feel like I'm out for my child, or for their child. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, no. I said, you gotta think, I have a child in high school myself. I wouldn't tell your child anything I wouldn't tell my child, because my ultimate goal is to see your child walk across that stage. So we have to have those difficult conversations just as well as the easy conversation, because if you don't know the difficult part of it, then we probably won't get to the easy, because you're expecting something. I'm not going to give you an expectation that may never come. I'm just not going to do that for you or your child. But but one of the most challenging things I said I would think is really, really getting that parental involvement,
Mhm.
because I rarely hear from the parents I need to hear from, or I rarely see the parents that I really need to see. The ones that I see are most of the ones that I talk to all the time, and we already know, what it is. But that parental involvement is always like they're looking for something. What I need to give you for you to come, and it shouldn't be like that.
Wow.
It should. This is your child. This is their education. Where do you want them to be? You got to look at your life as a parent and look at your child like, do I want my child to be where I am, or do I need them to go higher than what I am? You have to ask yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself as where you are, to see, if one of those parents, you didn't graduate, you knew you had, as a parent, you should have higher expectations for your child. And it's harder to talk to those type children. Like, that's a difficulty as well, because I only have them for so long, and as a counselor, I don't see them every day.
Right.
I don't always get to walk out on the lunch shift and put my hands and see their faces and just, mingle with them, because sometimes I got a lot going on in the office. So
Mhm.
as many times as I can, I try to stand outside, talk to them, go to their extracurricular activities, or just, say something in passing, because I don't always get that time with them. But just me seeing them, and then them going home 8 hours a day, then they gotta go on a weekend. It's almost like I'm reverting to the same thing come Monday morning. I just told you this Monday and you still didn't do it. And so getting them to believe, getting them to have higher expectations. And I'm not saying, some people may have that easy because of the type of children that they serve.
Mhm.
I can only speak for the children that I serve. That's the only thing I can do. I can't speak for those who have, like my child, she knows what the expectations are. I don't have to say much. So a lot of my time and energy is put into other people's kids for that reason. I know what I've been raising since I've been home. I know what I've been giving my children since they were little. These are my expectations, and they will never go lower than this. So, as a parent, what expectations have you given your child? The things when they come home and it's ninth grade year and you see they failed everything. Like, at that moment, we should be having conversations. And we shouldn't have waited to the end. Like, we get, the thing I didn't know about that, ma'am, sir. The kids have been in school how many years? How many times do they get a progress report? They get a report card. So you're talking about at least 4 times in a semester, 8 times in a year, and you haven't seen anything. Well, nobody has called me. Well, ma'am, when we called you, the system, whatever numbers we have, they're not updated. You don't think, like I need the parents to be on one accord with us as educators, because I'm not sure what goes through their head. I wish I could read their minds, but as me, as the parent that I am, if I change my number, first thing I'm going to do is call the school. Hey, I have updated my number. I need y'all to put this in the system. Well, we don't have that. So when we're trying to call you and let you know things or send communications out, we can't.
Mm.
So just having that everybody on one accord, I think, is the most difficult thing for me, as and because I'm almost like second. It's usually the parent, then the teacher, and then we get brought in.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
not we're not first connection, because whatever your child is doing is done in the classroom with the teacher.
Right.
So the teacher is supposed to make the first connection. If you as a teacher have made 2 or 3 attempts, then we kind of come in from there. But again, we're the last ones to know, but we're always the ones to get the blame.
Mm.
So, but so I wish those connections were stronger. Um, as far as overcoming them, we
Mhm.
haven't overcome them yet. It's just a work in progress. I say we progress maybe day by day. We may see them in the hallway, or I might be at a game or something. This your mama, ma'am. I need. I'll get the contact right then and there. Or whomever. It could be your cousin, your or whomever. Like I need contact with this person because I've been trying to contact them. That usually works for me. But I'm one of the I coach as well. So I'm in that area too. So I know again, as a coach, I'm gonna see certain people at certain places. So that gives me a chance to connect, so I try to use every avenue, every way that we can, communicating with paper, remind through our system, as much as I can, I will. But I think once we close that gap,
Mhm.
we'll see a better outcome of things as well.
Yeah, you have this by any means necessary type of mentality. Whether that's like a direct conversation with the parent, direct conversation with the student, leveraging teachers, leveraging games and different events. You're doing it all in service of, look, I'm trying to get this student to the next point in their life and make sure that they can be prepared for that. Kind of talk to me about like, how do you collaborate with your 12th grade team or other coaches, or even how do you think about partnering with a parent in terms of helping their child to be successful? What's your approach to that, and how can other people replicate that that are school counselors?
Well, we do a lot of parent meetings.
Mhm.
Like they do orientation, but at the beginning we do a mandatory. We start with our seniors, of course. We always start with our seniors, mostly because these are the ones that are most important this year. They're trying to get to a point, so we need to make sure that everything in the beginning is right. Um, if they're not gonna graduate, we can kind of tell, if they don't do such and such, they won't graduate. Or if they don't have this by December, I can tell you now, they're not going to graduate. So what we do is individual conferences with every single senior that we have, and their parent must be present.
Mm.
So that's one thing that we do. We have an all-out meeting, but they sign up for, we call every single last one of them. And then once we get through with our seniors, we go to our juniors.
Mhm.
We don't always make it to our sophomores and our freshmen, but we really, really, really try to get those juniors and seniors because those are our most important right now. This is one this year, and the next one we just need to make sure that you're on track so that you can just breeze through next year. The ultimate goal is, like I tell them, is to get out early. You don't want to be at school all day long. That's
Mm.
your ultimate goal,
Mm.
is to get out early so that you can do, if you do work, if you do want to do dual enrollment classes, if you do want to, you'll have the flexibility to do those things. But if you're a senior with a full load, you don't have that flexibility to do those things, testing, all of that, so we talk to our ninth graders mostly about the testing realm of it. Because if
Mhm.
you don't have those tests, there's no more vouchers. COVID is over. So we got to get out the COVID mentality,
Yeah.
because that's been one of our issues as well. But I don't know nothing else but maintain the communication. Like it's tiresome. I'm like now. Sometimes I'm here 7, 8 o'clock and I'm not even on the clock. Like I'm like in the summer, I've been leaving here sometimes 7, 8 o'clock. Now, granted, my son does play ball, so he's in the back practicing, but I'm here and I don't necessarily have to be here. But I'm doing that so that your child can be ahead and then it won't be as much work on me as well. So like you said, by any means necessary, you have to have that mentality. You have to have that by any means necessary, and it gets tiresome. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes you just want to say, I'm done, but then it goes back to, what I don't want you to say is, she didn't do enough.
Mm.
I don't ever want you to have those words to say what she didn't do for my child. So, I make sure we make sure that we put everything in writing. Like
Mhm.
if we have a meeting, we typing it up, we give it to them, and they sign it. So you won't, what you can't say is you didn't know,
Mm.
because you'll try to throw it back on us. And I can't let you do that, because I've done what I was supposed to do in my power. Did you do what you were supposed to do for your child? And
Mm.
again, I go back to, when I look at these children, I look at my children. I look at, if my child has a counselor, what I would want my counselor to do for my child. So that's how I treat these children and these parents. I'm a parent of a child in East Baton Rouge Parish school system. The same way I want that same way. I'm gonna be the same way with you and your children because I know what you're going through. And I know counselors, so I try if you start early, you'll be all right. Don't wait till the last minute and then trying to find out, well, what can I do? Well, ma'am, we should have been doing something, or sir, way back when. That it they try to make it an emergency on their part. Well, it's not an emergency for me right now. When I tried to reach you that whole week, you didn't have time for me. So now you have to wait till I'm ready. It's I don't know. It's hard. I get it. Some people have a breeze, and that the problems that we have are not the same problems around the district. And I'm pretty sure you can kind of see which places would have different the problems. That goes back to the school system. I think it should be some individuality within the schools. I mean, I give everybody the same, but there should be some differences within. Like if you got kids in here at Glen Oaks, a vast majority of our kids like welding. They like automotive. So what they'll do is they'll send them to C-Tech. My problem with that is why? When we have the resources on campus, just give us what we need on campus. Partner with these businesses. I'm sure a business wouldn't mind sending a welder over if you do a contract to where when the kids graduate, they have to come over to that. I mean, this is just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But this is my thought process. Kids who like to do hair have a cosmetology program going on. Once they leave, they probably can go to this or work with this certain. You just never know. But there should be some individuality at each school. Look and see. Get a survey going. What do these students like to do? Because everything is not going to be the same for every child there. It's just not. So we have to start looking at that. We can have the same things going on, but there should be some individuality at these schools. So
Yeah, for sure. I wish I know there's some schools who have like those trade programs either built in or they're partnering with community college to offer those. And I think it'd be great for students to graduate from high school with a trade certificate or be, pretty much well on their way, but they only have to take a few classes after they graduate.
so they do have the like our 11th graders would have that some of them will graduate with an associate's degree.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a new thing that we have going on now, and it'll be our 11th graders, but the districts, there'll be 9th and 10th graders because we started first, so we're a grade ahead. We were like the pilot program.
Awesome. Look,
Yeah.
I hope every student takes advantage of that because I mean that you not only are you saving money, but you also like really prepare for college because
Well, it's not every
right,
student because
right.
again, it's not conducive to every student, but you do have a good number of them who took advantage. So
That's cool. Now, something else you spoke about is boundaries, whether they're setting boundaries with parents, knowing that hey, your emergency is not my emergency. You have that by any means necessary mindset. How do you make sure you don't get burnt out in all of this between managing the parents, managing your work with the students? What do you do to maintain your mental and emotional health?
I take breaks. Like some days, my counterpart and I we'll close down our section. Like we're not meeting with anybody today. Just it would just it's one of those big, especially if we've had since Monday a full flow of things that have happened. We'll shut it down. Like Friday, it's no, we're just gonna do whatever we need to do. We're not meeting with anybody. We don't want to see anybody. And our principal is usually good with that because they know what we kind of go through and what we deal with on a daily basis. So if we say something like that, he'll announce it. Do not send any kids. Front office, they know they're not seeing anybody today. You can email them. They will return your email as soon as possible. But those type things we have to do because mentally, and we do it a lot during report card time.
Mm.
Because that the semester and the end of the year is probably the most busiest time because we have graduation. Everybody trying to see if their child is graduating now, or is my child gonna pass now? But we needed you back then so we could tell you all that. So it's really, really, really an influx of calls, and sometimes they call cursing, and I'm not one of those ones, so I'll just say have a nice day and I'll hang up the phone and I have you take it. But you can't just call me hollering it, because I'm not gonna talk to you like that. That's you're not messing up my mental, because I know how I know how I am, because at the same time I'm human. So
Right.
you can't call her, because that's gonna trigger me to do the same thing to you, and I'm gonna just hang up. I'd rather just hang up in your face than to deal with that. So that's kind of how we protect our mental. If we know, like, on maybe something has happened over the weekend, because we do keep in contact over the weekend, which is be like, look, tomorrow we're gonna shut it down, or we may take an extended lunch break here, there, whenever we get a lunch break, or stuff like
Mhm.
that. It's just the small things that work for us.
Gotcha. You build it into your day. You build it.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
That makes sense.
yes.
That makes, and
If
that's
needed, if
a,
needed.
right if
Yeah.
needed. Right. Right.
Hmm.
Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Now I know something you talked about earlier was that village. Yeah, it takes a village to support students. How do you create that village? How can other people create that village? What is the village for your students?
So the village for us is more of us, the parent, the administration, outside stakeholders who want to come in and try to help different organizations that are already within, and we try to tell. I built. Shout out to, I'll say, the Glen Oaks High Security Dads. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they were some older men who kids have went here or haven't went here, and
Mhm.
they've stayed connected with the school. And what they do is anything that's needed, they'll fundraise. Like, they made at the football games, what they'll do is they'll sell turkey wings and stuff like that. And what they do is if they have a kid who can't pay something, they'll pay it for them. If they have a kid, or if I need to take them somewhere, they'll, well, how many you taking? What you need, they'll pay for that. They take them to Pelicans games sometimes just to get them as incentives. They do community service, and they're very, very big in the community, but they're very, very big here on this campus.
Mm.
They come here every lunch day, and they sit out on the lunch shift the entire time. They get here at 10:30, and they do not leave till 12 o'clock, because 10:30 is more of your middle school, and then your 12 o'clock is when high school ends.
Mm.
So they're here every single day. Every single day. And I mean, no kidding, just sitting out on the breezeway with the kids and just talking to the kids. They show up at every athletic event. If one can't go here, then they'll split up and say, okay, well, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go there. And I mean, they are just very, very, and they're older, so they're really like dads, because they're older, maybe like 60s, 70s and above, but
Mhm.
they do a whole lot. The alumni they've gotten more active within the school as well. So they do a lot as well. But those things, just outside sources, are kind of where we have to go to get to build that, because all those things that we try to do take money.
Right.
And you know, sometimes you hate asking,
Mhm.
but you have to ask.
Mhm.
Because the money that is set to the school is not always enough, because things have to be done through the school year. So yeah, we're beggars sometimes, or we do fundraise, but we gotta ask. If you are about the children, if that's what you say you're about, and I hear you say that's what you're about, I'm gonna come ask you. So you say, you're trying to help the kids. Is how we talk. You're trying to help the kids.
Mhm.
What you gonna do for me? And they were like, what you need, because they know what I do. They know if I ask for something, it's going toward the kids. I'm not spending it. I don't need it for me. It's not for me. I need just what I asked for. So just give me what I asked for. Or if you don't want to give it to me, just pay for it.
Mhm.
and I'll bring you whatever documentation you need. So those are things that we do to kind of bring people together. Just that's that's basically it.
Right.
What I do, my like I say, my counterpart, she's just like, you got that. That's that's your world. So that's me.
But y'all a dynamic duo. Y'all got it
We're
all figured out.
definitely a dynamic duo.
What's the
Definitely.
name of that dad group again? What's the name of that dad group?
The Glen Oaks High School security dads.
Security dad. Shout out to the security dad.
Yeah,
Really
they're
cool
really
need a group
and
like
they've
that.
been around a I say a long time.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Couple of more questions I got for
go
you.
ahead, go
One
ahead.
was you were saying how hectic the end of the school year can be. And so I'm trying to imagine, right? The start of the year, there's gonna be the ebbs and flows. What are like some of the biggest end of year goals that you have to hit? And then how do you make sure you manage it all so that those times where it's really busy don't stop you from hitting those end of year goals?
So, babe, I mean that could vary every year.
Mhm.
Um, one of them, of course, the major goal is to graduate all our kids.
Right.
That doesn't happen. And it's not in fault to us all the time. Sometimes it's fault to kids have moved around a lot. Um, they just haven't done what they're supposed to do. So that takes, and then of course you have our SPED population where they can stay up until they're 22. So that makes a big difference in our numbers. Like this year, I think we'll start with like 90 something kids.
Mhm.
If we graduate 70 of them, at least
Mhm.
70 of them, we've done well.
Right.
Because you're talking about 20 who haven't graduated, and that could include your SPED population or people who haven't passed tests or those type things. So a lot of things that we focus on or testing. So like we signed a lot of our kids up for remediation this summer. That's to get ahead. Especially we made sure that we signed up every single last junior because those are our upcoming seniors. So if they take the test this summer and they, because they didn't pass, that will give them 3 opportunities to pass instead of 2. So that's how we stay ahead of the game with testing. Because with them being seniors, they'll test again in December and then they'll have that one last time in the spring. So 3 is always better than 2 with that. We also like now what I was telling you, I was going through my schedules. So I'm just sitting here and making sure there are no spaces in the schedules, that they have everything that they need according to what their transcript look like at the end of the year. All those things matter so that when we come back, schedule, it will be minor adjustments that
Mhm.
may or may have to be done. So that keeps us to a limb of like when those new kids come in, we hurry up and get what they need in. So when school starts, we won't have those issues of I don't have a schedule or you got 150 kids sitting in there with no schedule. That's what you don't want. So when we have those things in order early, then that works as well. I know one goal we had last year was FAFSA. That's a graduation requirement now that the FAFSA is completed. So we try to let those know, October 1st, we start that. And we have a district FAFSA night. We try to get as many done as we can. And then we have to go through because that if they don't have that done, then that may cost them not to graduate. So we try to every week, every other week, make sure you're completing your FAFSA, but that becomes hard sometimes because you have parents who don't want to give their tax information or who don't want to. So you have that comes in a back pedal to the hard conversations. Like, ma'am, sir, your child is trying to graduate. We need this for graduation. It's not they're not trying to take anything. They're not trying. It's just basically income purposes. So we have to have those conversations and trying to stay up on those. And like testing is one of our biggest things because of course everybody has to test. Ninth graders probably test them. Ninth and 10th graders take the most tests. But we try to reiterate to them, if you pass it now,
Mhm.
your 9th and 10th grade year,
Right.
your 11th and 12th grade year won't be such a stress, because then you would just have to focus on your subjects. So, you have those who take it serious, you have those who don't take it serious, and then by senior year, they're stressed.
Right.
But these are things that we try to avoid. So basically, graduation is probably our busiest thing, and that's something we really can't control on how it flows, because certain things are due at certain times, and depending on when you graduate, that's the order in which the district may take care of certain things. So
Mm.
all of that, collecting money for senior dues, that's always a hassle, because they want these different things, but they don't want to pay for it. Like all of those things play a big, big part. And I try to tell them through the summer, be mindful, your senior year is coming up.
Mhm.
There's going to be money due. I said you will want to save at least $500. If you could save at least $500, you would be ahead of the game,
Right.
because you have to pay senior dues, have to pay your cap and gown fee, and if you have a fee within EBR, you have to pay that. I say, so you need to make sure those are end of the year conversations that we have with each grade level. Make sure that your account is in a zero balance before you leave it every year. So those are, and then because they'll go to different schools and think, oh, I left the school, so I don't have to pay. Nope. If it follows them, then that becomes a problem. I don't want to pay that. Well, ma'am, sir, we told you, that's not something we control. That's a district thing. So those are things. I mean, you can try to stay
Mm.
above water.
Mhm.
It does not always work. Does
Wow.
not always work. We ask sometimes for report cards. We'll ask for grades early. Won't get that.
Mhm.
So it goes back to teamwork. If as a council, if we ask for it, because y'all don't have to do that part. That's something that we have to do. So we just need you to, if we say on the 7th, can we please get them on the 7th? Because once you don't give it to us on the 7th, now you have pushed us back. And then we have deadlines that we have to meet, and then it becomes a problem for us. So
Right.
it's just working together, trying to make it work, but it's always something.
Right. Y'all try to get out in front of it as
Yes.
much as you can, and then you just got to handle it as it comes.
Yes. Yeah.
Look,
But it works.
you're right. You do an amazing job of it. You make it happen. You and your teammates make it happen. I got my last question for you. It's the question I end every podcast with. I want you to pretend that I gave you this magic wand. And in this magic wand, you could change anything you want. You can make one wish, change anything you want about education, so that our most underserved students are the ones that are the most successful. What are you changing about education?
Mm, I would say that we as educators learn to educate the whole child.
Hmm.
And when I say the whole child, I mean the whole child. I don't mean that child comes here and in your class and we straight to work. Because if Jane Doe comes in your class every single day, straight to work, and you see Jane Doe not going to work, straight to work, you got to stop and see what's going on with Jane Doe. Not just why you not doing your work. Blah, blah, blah. You got to catch that moment when you can and see. If you have a get to know your students before they get to you.
Hmm.
Look at ask them, bring me your grades from last year. Bring me your transcript. If you see, well, this child started off A, B student, all of a sudden we go, there's a problem. Address that problem. And when you address that problem needs to stay between you and that child.
Hmm.
That is not for you to go out and discuss that child's problem, because now you have created a whole nother monster, because you've talked about whatever this child has told you and trusted you. And now you've made it to something different because somebody maybe heard and said, Miss such and such said such and such, and now it's a big thing. So, like, when the whole child is very important, and when you teach the whole child or you learn the whole child, I've learned that that child will work for you in any way possible. Any way possible. When that child knows that it's not about a check for you, that you just not coming here, and you know you can really sit down and just talk and just you got it. You got it as a teacher, you got it as a person, and now you wonder why your classroom works for you because you made it work. You established those relationships that they needed. All they wanted was somebody to listen and to hear them. And once they tell you whatever it is that they need to tell you, give your piece. But you also got to let them know, hey, if this is where you want to go, these are the things that you have to do. So how willing and how bad do you really want to go to that higher place? So if I could change it, definitely as educators being able to teach the whole child, just in peace, if that makes sense, in peace. Like, not don't make it like, as my grandmother used to say, a mountain or Mohican. So whatever that meant, but don't spread the word, because that was just between you and that child. So make it work for that child. And even if that means you have to go to other teachers and say, hey, if such and such, send them to me. You know, be that mentor for that child. Send them to me. If you feel like they're not send them to me. I'm gonna get them. And every morning or every what, you make sure that you touch that child at some point and say, hey, I'm watching you. It doesn't have to be long, nothing, just that they know. To this day, I have kids who call me now, or they'll text me now, and just certain things they just want to talk about because I just gave them a little bit of time, and it goes a long way. So because they don't have that, their village is not. They don't have the villages that we had. That is they don't really have a village. They just have a house,
Right.
and that house ain't really a home. So
Yes.
that it makes a difference.
Yes, when the kid knows that you care about them, their success, their well-being, they will run through walls for you.
For you,
You will run through
in
walls.
any kind of way, even it might be the way that you don't want them to do it, but they, by any means necessary, they will protect you.
Yes.
Because they feel you protected them in the time that they needed. So yeah, I've learned that, and yes, sometimes it's just talk to me. Like, let's just talk. Circle up. No work today. Circle up. Let's go.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You didn't give a word on the podcast today. I appreciate it. I know when educators listen to this, there's probably going to be some that may be struggling in their role or just have questions and want to pick your brain, whether it's social media, whether it's email. What's the best way for educators who want to learn more about how you do your work to connect with you and reach out to you?
You would just have to email me, because I don't really have a social media that's connected to that, although I've really been praying on that, and because it has coming to my mind, because I get a lot of DMs about, hey, I need this for my child, what should I do you have any resources, do you know any people? I have a lot of that, and many people have told me, and I've really been praying on them, like, okay, but I just gotta make sure that's what God is. That's my purpose. Something I gotta talk to God about. Is making sure that it's my time for that. Like, is it my time to do that? Do I really have the time to do that? Because once you start that, you can't just fall off. So it's a lot of things that I get called to do that I just can't do, and I really, I have that's a prayerful in my prayer, on my vision board, all of that. Like, God just tell me when, give me a sign, let me know, But if anybody wants to email me, it is A as an apple, my first name, my last name Williams, the number 18 at E as in elephant, B as in boy, R as in Robert, schools with an S.org. So, and
Awesome.
on Facebook, I'm just Ashley Williams, and on Instagram is at Miss Neek 17. So
Awesome, awesome. And look, I know God is going to tell you exactly where He wants you to go, exactly how to walk in your purpose. But you are an amazing educator. Thank you again for hopping on the podcast with me. And for those of y'all that are watching this, don't hesitate to reach out to Miss Williams, and we will see y'all on the other side of graduation. Have a
shout
good
out
one.
to my Deltas.
Let's go. Let's go. Back in the building. All right.
Yeah, have a good one.